The proclamation thundered across the galaxy. By decree of the High Council, High Lord Jakor's voice boomed, translated into a dozen tongues, humanity is hereby declared an enemy of the Empire. Their colonies will burn. Their fleets will shatter. Their species will kneel. In the Empire's High Hall, 1,000 alien dignitaries erupted in applause. Their jeweled robes shimmered under vaulted arches, banners of conquest fluttering overhead. For them, this was tradition, a ritual of dominance, a reminder that the Empire's word was law. But the broadcast did not vanish at the chamber walls. It spread, star by star, until even the smallest outpost received the Empire's threat. And when it reached Earth, the reactions were far from what Jakor had envisioned. On a college campus in Chicago, students paused mid-lecture to watch the announcement projected in the sky. One shrugged. Cool. So, pizza before or after the invasion? Laughter rippled through the crowd. On Luna, workers in orbital shipyards passed the message between themselves. Guess the Empire's finally noticed us. Another replied while tightening a bolt on a plasma conduit. Took them long enough. Across colonies and stations, humanity did not cower. They shared jokes, placed bets, even made parody videos within hours. Where fear was expected, mockery thrived. Captain Elena Varga watched the feed inside her command center aboard the TDS Resolute. 35 years old, dark hair tied in a neat knot, she leaned back in her chair and let the words roll past her. The alien lord's posturing didn't even raise her pulse. Well, she said at last, her voice even. That's official then. The Empire's going to try to kill us. Her second-in-command, Commander Jean Rao, tilted his head with a faint grin. Bold of them to assume it'll work. The bridge crew chuckled, but none stopped working. Screens tracked supply convoys, patrol routes, and encrypted signals humming through the fleet's network. No one scrambled, no one panicked. Preparations had been underway long before the Empire's theatrics. Varga tapped the display, magnifying the image of Jakor, his scaled face stretched into a sneer of triumph. He believes we'll fold because every other species did. Jin's eyes narrowed. And he's about to learn why we didn't join their empire in the first place. Far away, in the heart of the Empire's capital, Jakor ended his speech with ceremonial flourish. His words had been rehearsed, his gestures precise, every syllable weighted with ancient pride. To him, humanity was another rebellious species to be broken, a brief footnote in the Empire's eternal rule. In private chambers afterward, he confided to his advisors, by the time this war ends, their name will be dust. Let it be known, none defy the Empire. He spoke with conviction, but his ignorance ran deep. He did not know that humans had studied his fleets for decades, catalogued every maneuver, anticipated every declaration. He did not know that Earth's scattered colonies were bound not by fear of conquest but by stubborn defiance. Back aboard the Resolute, Varga addressed her officers. The first strike will come soon. They'll choose a colony they think weak. Something public. They want spectacle. Lieutenant Arjun Patel, fresh-faced but sharp, raised a brow. Arion. Or maybe Vega's outer stations. Doesn't matter which, Varga said. They'll expect panic. Instead, they'll get resistance. She stood, smoothing her dark uniform. Our job isn't to win glory. It's to remind them humanity doesn't kneel. A murmur of agreement swept the bridge. These were not soldiers chasing parades or medals. They were professionals, pilots, engineers, tacticians, who had grown up hearing stories of Earth's past wars, of how humans had survived against odds that made the Empire look tame. That night, as Earth rotated quietly below the orbital fleet command, messages from civilians poured through the networks. Not pleas for safety, but sarcastic commentaries, jokes, even motivational slogans. A favorite among the crews was already trending. Empire declares war. Humans declare lunch break. Varga allowed herself a thin smile. Humor was not just a shield, it was proof of spirit. Fear breaks morale. Laughter binds it. Jean lingered beside her after the day's reports were filed. You don't look worried. I'm not, she said. Her gaze fixed on the stars beyond the viewport, points of light against the Black Sea. The Empire thinks history is on their side. But history doesn't fight their battles. We do. And what do you expect, Captain? She took a breath, then answered without hesitation. I expect them to come hard. And I expect us to hit harder. They've never fought anyone who doesn't care about their traditions. We don't see gods in their banners. We see targets. For a moment, silence filled the command deck, broken only by the hum of systems and the distant thrum of engines. Then Varga added, softly but firmly, when they come, we'll be ready. And when they leave, it won't be with victory, it'll be with scars they won't forget. In the Empire's palace, Jakor prepared his war fleet with the confidence of a conqueror. On Earth, Captain Elena Varga prepared her ship with the certainty of survival. Two wills now set against each other, separated by light years but on a collision course neither could avoid. And across humanity's worlds, from sprawling megacities to mining colonies carved into frozen moons, one attitude reigned supreme. The Empire thought it had declared war. Humanity hardly cared. High Lord Jakor's fleet emerged from slipspace like a storm. Hundreds of warships, armored in obsidian plating and bristling with weapons, surged into orbit above the human frontier colony of Haven Reach. The colony was modest, a terraformed world of farmland and small cities, valuable only as a trade hub. Jakor had chosen it deliberately. Its fall, broadcast across the stars, would be the Empire's first lesson to humanity. On the flagship Dominion's Wrath, Jakor surveyed the blue-green planet below. His generals bowed in unison. The colony's defenses are negligible, High Lord. We expect minimal resistance. As it should be, Jakor replied. His scaled jaw tightened. When the humans see fire rain upon their settlements, their spirit will break. Begin the assault. Haven Reach's orbital stations scrambled to life as the Empire descended. Rusted guns hummed, outdated interceptors launched in desperation. To the Empire, it was laughable. To the humans stationed there, it was survival. Captain Elena Varga watched the incursion unfold from the Resolute, her ship hidden in the shadow of an asteroid belt just outside the system. Around her, the Terran defense fleet stirred, a wolf pack cloaked by silence. Enemy fleet establishing orbit, reported Lieutenant Patel. Their guns are hot, but they haven't noticed us. Of course not, Varga said. They never expect anyone to hide in plain sight. Let's give them a reason to pay attention. Commander Jean leaned forward. Orders. Wait until they're busy burning farms, Varga replied. We're not here to save buildings. We're here to bleed them. Jakor's first wave opened fire. Plasma lances cut across the atmosphere, igniting forests and collapsing power grids. Towers fell, sirens wailed, and terrified colonists fled into shelters. On the ground, militia squads fought with rifles better suited for hunting game than piercing alien armor. Yet they fought anyway, firing from rooftops, ambushing patrols, refusing to run. Jakor watched with disdain. They resist like vermin, he muttered. Insignificant. Then, the trap sprung. From the asteroid belt, cloaked drones launched in synchronized silence. They streaked into orbit, black specks against the void, and detonated across the Empire's flanks. Dozens of warships shuddered under precision strikes. Jakor's command deck lit up with alarms. What is this? He roared. Before his generals could answer, the Resolute surged into open space, flanked by human frigates. Their hulls gleamed with modular plating, smaller and sleeker than the Empire's massive dreadnoughts. Terran Defense Fleet, engage, Varga ordered, her voice calm as if calling a drill. Human ships darted like predators, fast, agile, unpredictable. Instead of meeting the Empire head-on, they harried the flanks, exploiting gaps, vanishing into electronic shadows before counterfire landed. On the Resolute's bridge, tension crackled, but the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Targeting solutions locked, Patel called. Fire when ready, Varga said. A lance of energy tore through an enemy cruiser's engines, sending it spiraling into Haven Reach's upper atmosphere in a blaze of fire. Commander Jean glanced at her. They'll regroup fast. They can try, she replied. In the Empire fleet, chaos spread. The humans weren't fighting like the other species the Empire had crushed. They didn't stand in rigid formations, didn't cling to ceremonial tactics. They struck, vanished, and struck again. One general barked, "They're insects, squash them." Jakor slammed a clawed hand onto the control table. "No. They're vipers. Treat them as such." But his words came too late. Back on the Resolute, Varga leaned over the comms. Broadcast wideband. "Channel open," Patel confirmed. Varga's voice carried across the system, intercepted on every frequency. "This is Captain Elena Varga of the Terran Defense Fleet. To the people of Haven Reach, hold your ground. To the Empire, you wanted a spectacle? Here it is." Her words weren't shouted. They were steady, controlled. That comm struck harder than any battle cry. Jakor snarled at the message. "Find that ship and destroy it." But the Resolute was already gone, slipping into the asteroid shadows, reappearing moments later to cripple another cruiser. Empire formations fractured. Their warships, designed for brute force, struggled to track smaller, agile prey. On Haven Reach, colonists heard Varga's broadcast. Farmers turned their plows into barricades, militia redoubled their efforts, children painted crude signs on walls, "We don't kneel." The skirmish stretched into hours. The Empire poured firepower into empty space, while humans bled them piece by piece. Every frigate lost stung more than the last. Finally, Jakor ordered a retreat. His fleet limped back into slipspace, leaving wreckage behind. The ground forces scrambled to evacuate, abandoning scorched outposts in frustration. On the Resolute, cheers erupted, restrained but genuine. Patel grinned. "They ran." "Of course they did," Varga said. She stood at the viewport, watching the last alien ship vanish into the void. "Arrogance doesn't shield you from reality." Jean crossed his arms. "This was just the beginning. He'll come back with more." "And we'll be waiting with more," Varga replied. Her gaze hardened. "Today, we proved one thing, they bleed. And once they know they can bleed, they'll never fight the same way again." On the ground, colonists emerged from shelters to find their homes scarred but standing. Fire smoldered, ash drifted, but the banners daubed with "We Don't Kneel" still hung in the streets. Across human space, news of Haven Reach spread like wildfire. Not stories of fear, but of defiance. A colony targeted for annihilation had survived the Empire's fury. And somewhere in the void, High Lord Jakor seethed. His victory had become humiliation. Humanity had drawn first blood. The War Council chamber aboard the Dominion's Wrath vibrated with restrained rage. High Lord Jakor paced before his generals, claws clicking against the polished obsidian floor. His eyes blazed, but his voice carried the weight of controlled fury. "One colony," he said, enunciating each word. "One insignificant colony, and yet it defies the Empire. My fleet, our fleet, was forced to withdraw under the gaze of farmers and scavengers. This is humiliation. None dared speak. The silence was suffocating until Admiral Korath bowed low. High Lord, the humans are not like the prey we have crushed before. They adapt. They use unorthodox tactics. We underestimated them. Jakor's snarl cut him off. They are primitive. Their defiance is an illusion. I will not tolerate comparisons between humanity and the Empire. His tail lashed, slamming against the floor. If they are serpents, we will cut off their heads. I want Earth itself trembling before me. Across the void, Earth was anything but trembling. In a conference chamber deep within Geneva's orbital complex, representatives from the United Terran Alliance gathered. The chamber was functional rather than ornate. Bright screens, modular seating, and the faint hum of life support systems. Captain Elena Varga stood at the center, summoned to give testimony. She carried herself with the quiet authority of one who had faced death and returned with proof. Counselor Liang leaned forward, hands clasped. Captain, your report on Haven Reach is extraordinary. Casualty numbers are far lower than projected. The Empire withdrew. Do you believe it was a true retreat or simply a regrouping? They'll regroup, Varga replied without hesitation. Jakor's pride is wounded. He'll come back harder, with more ships and fewer assumptions. But he's already learned the first lesson. Humans won't break the way he expects. Counselor Alvarez, older and skeptical, adjusted his glasses. You speak as if we should invite escalation. Shouldn't we pursue negotiation before this spirals into a war we cannot win? Varga met his gaze evenly. They didn't come for negotiation. They declared war before we said a word. The Empire doesn't see us as equals. They see us as prey. You don't bargain with a predator until you've proven you can bite. Murmurs spread across the chamber. Some nodded, others frowned. Counselor Liang asked, then what do you propose? Harassment. Flexibility. We can't match their raw numbers, but we don't need to. Every ship we cripple, every supply line we sever, chips away at their illusion of invincibility. Once their people start to question that illusion, the Empire weakens from within. Back aboard the Dominion's Wrath, Jakor stared at holographic maps of human-controlled space. His advisors outlined strategies, but his focus was on one name, Varga. She taunts us in her broadcasts, said one general. Her calm unnerves even our warriors. Jakor leaned over the table, mandibles curling. Then I will make her silence my personal victory. This captain has become the symbol of resistance. Break her, and the colonies will crumble. Admiral Korath hesitated. High Lord, hunting a single officer may waste resources. Humanity's strength lies in its collective unpredictability, not one leader. Jakor's gaze burned. Do not mistake the spear for the arm that wields it. Kill the symbol, and the arm falters. That night, aboard the Resolute, Varga walked the quiet corridors. Her crew rested, but sleep eluded her. The stars outside glimmered like silent witnesses, indifferent yet eternal. She paused at the observation deck, where Commander Jean was already waiting, arms crossed. You stirred the council, he said without turning. They needed stirring, she replied. Some of them still think we can talk our way out of this. Jean smirked. Talk is cheaper than steel. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the spiral arm stretch across the void. Then Jean said, You think Jakor will come for you personally? Varga's expression hardened. He has to. Pride won't let him ignore me. That gives us leverage. If he obsesses over one target, we can shape the battlefield. You sound almost like you want him to chase you. I don't want it, she said. But I'll use it. Weeks passed. Small skirmishes erupted across frontier worlds. Human frigates slipped behind enemy lines, ambushing convoys, planting decoys, vanishing before retaliation. Jakor's frustration grew with every report. Another transport destroyed. Another outpost harried. This is beneath us. Admiral Korath, ever cautious, finally spoke boldly. High Lord, the humans are shaping the war. They strike where we are weakest, not where we are strongest. We must adapt. Jakor rose, towering over the council. Then adapt. Triple patrols. Flood their skies with fire. And bring me Varga's head. On Earth, Varga addressed a private strategy session with fleet captains. Her tone was direct, not theatrical. The Empire thinks in lines. They advance, they dominate, they crush. We think in patterns. We don't need to outgun them, we need to outthink them. A captain asked, what if they bait us with overwhelming force? Then we don't take the bait, Varga said. We set our own. Her calm conviction spread like wildfire among the officers. They didn't see her as untouchable. They saw her as human, deliberate, unshaken. That mattered more than any victory. Jakor, however, saw only defiance. He stood in his private quarters, claws tracing the scarred hilt of his ancestral blade. His reflection in the mirror showed not triumph but the shadow of doubt. Why do they not fear us? He whispered, the words tasting of venom. Every other species bows. Why not them? No answer came. The silence pressed in, mocking him. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, Varga recorded a message for broadcast. To the people of every colony under threat, you are not alone. The Empire would have you believe resistance is futile. Haven Reach proved otherwise. We are not invincible, but neither are they. Remember that. Her words spread far beyond military channels, carried into civilian networks, replayed in settlements and mining stations. Children repeated her phrases like oaths. Farmers painted her name on the sides of barns. The empire had its fleets. Humanity had its stories. In his throne chamber, Jakor watched one such broadcast with simmering hatred. Varga's calm face filled the projection, her voice unwavering. She will be ashes, he swore. His generals shifted uncomfortably, recognizing obsession in his tone. But no one dared remind him that obsession was exactly what his enemy wanted. The largest armada the Empire had assembled in a century shimmered into existence above the frontier system of ardent reach. Hundreds of warships stretched across the stars, a curtain of steel and firepower. At the center, the Dominion's wrath loomed like a dark sun, its hull bristling with weapons. High Lord Jakor stood on the command deck, talons clenched behind his back. The memory of Haven Reach still burned in his mind. This time, he growled, there will be no retreat. Admiral Korath gave a measured bow. We have committed nearly a third of the Western Fleet. Victory here will shatter their morale. Jakor's jaws curled in satisfaction. And I will see this Varga crushed in the heart of her own trap. On the Resolute, hidden at the edge of the system, Captain Elena Varga studied the unfolding spectacle. The Empire's ships glowed like a constellation of predators. She exhaled slowly, steadying her mind. They brought everything, Lieutenant Patel whispered, his voice half awe, half dread. That means we've already won, Varga replied. Commander Jean raised an eyebrow. You call that winning? He gestured toward the tactical map. They're overcommit, Varga said. They think throwing numbers solves everything. But numbers spread too thin are just targets. She turned to her crew. Signal the fleet. Phase 1 begins. The battle opened with brutal clarity. Empire warships advanced in rigid formations, unleashing torrents of plasma fire at human decoy satellites and unmanned stations. Explosions painted the void in white light. They waste volleys on shadows, Patel noted, watching the feeds. Good, Varga said. The longer they fire at ghosts, the less they notice the knife at their back. Phase 1 unfolded. Drones disguised as frigates drew volleys. Jammers disrupted targeting. Mining charges detonated along pre-mapped routes, scattering debris into the Empire's formations. Jakor bared his fangs at the chaos. Clear the debris. Push forward. His generals scrambled to adapt. But every correction revealed another trap. Phase 2 struck harder. Human ships emerged from the asteroid belt in sudden, coordinated strikes. Frigates darted through gaps, crippling supply carriers and fuel depots. Battleships held back, firing precision volleys into overloaded reactors. On the Resolute, alarms blared as return fire grazed their hull. The ship shook violently, but the crew stayed composed. Shields holding at 60%. Patel shouted. Maintain formation, Varga ordered. Her voice never rose. Calmness steadied the bridge more than shields could. Commander Jean pointed to the tactical display. We've cut their left flank to pieces. If we press now. Not yet, Varga interrupted. They're expecting us to lunge. Let them bleed first. Jakor's fury grew with every loss. Reports streamed in, carriers crippled, escorts vaporized, fuel convoys scattered. He slammed his claws against the console. Where is she? He roared. Where is Varga? Admiral Korath hesitated. She strikes from shadows. She avoids direct engagement. Cowardice. Jakor spat. Korath's eyes flickered, but he kept his tone even. Or wisdom, High Lord. She fights on her terms, not ours. Jakor silenced him with a glare. Then force her terms. Advance the dreadnought line. Burn this system until she is dragged into the open. The Empire's dreadnoughts surged forward, colossal ships that dwarfed anything humanity possessed. Their guns roared, reducing decoys and small stations into vapor. To the outside eye, it looked overwhelming. But Varga's eyes saw opportunity. Phase 3, she commanded. At once, dormant satellites hidden across the system awakened. Linked by encrypted signals, they triangulated on the advancing dreadnoughts. Lances of focused energy burst forth, not to destroy but to blind sensors and scramble comms. The dreadnoughts staggered, momentarily blind. Into that gap, the Terran fleet dove like wolves. Torpedoes struck vulnerable underbellies, frigates cut across exposed flanks, and one dreadnought shuddered before exploding in a blossom of fire that lit the system. The bridge of the Resolute erupted in cheers. Varga raised a hand, steadying them. Focus. This isn't over. On the Dominion's wrath, Jakor's composure cracked. Impossible, he bellowed. A dreadnought does not fall to insects. Yet the flames outside told the truth. His armada, so vast, was being whittled down by a fleet less than a quarter its size. Admiral Korath spoke carefully. High Lord, we must regroup. If we press without caution, we risk. Silence. Jakor roared. Victory is mine. I will have it. His obsession echoed through the command deck. Officers exchanged uneasy glances but obeyed. The battle stretched into hours. Empire warships pressed forward with raw might, but every step deeper into the system tangled them in more traps. Fuel reserves dwindled. Coordination faltered. Humanity fought like water, slipping, flowing, never where the Empire expected. On the ground of Ardent Reach's colonies, civilians watched from bunkers as the sky lit with fire. Children whispered Varga's name like a spell. Farmers tuned battered radios to intercepted broadcasts of her voice. This is Captain Elena Varga, her message rang. Hold your ground. Every second you endure, they weaken. The turning point came as the Resolute intercepted a priority transmission. Patel's face paled as he translated. It's Jakor. He's broadcasting orders on an unsecured channel. He's calling you out. Varga leaned over the console. The words glared back. Varga, face me in the open or watch your people burn. Commander Jean muttered. He's losing control. That's when he's most dangerous, Varga replied. She straightened, considering the message. But also when he's most predictable. She turned to her crew. Prepare Phase 4. Phase 4 was the knife's edge. The Resolute emerged from cover, its engines flaring as it darted into open space directly before the Dominion's wrath. Gasps spread across the bridge crew. Patel looked at her, eyes wide. Captain, are we really? Yes, Varga said calmly. We give him what he wants. And then we take it away. The Dominion's wrath locked onto them instantly, guns charging. Jakor's voice thundered over comms, dripping with triumph. At last, the insect shows herself. Varga replied with quiet steel. At last, the predator steps into the trap. As the Dominion's wrath fired, the trap sprung. Human ships hidden in its wake unleashed volleys from every angle. Precision strikes hammered its shield generators. The great vessel staggered, energy fields collapsing. The Resolute dove close, skimming the dreadnought's hull at impossible speed, releasing a string of charges along weak points mapped weeks earlier. The charges detonated in sequence. Fire erupted across the dreadnought's spine. Systems flickered, weapons fell silent. The mighty Dominion's wrath bled fire into the void. On the bridge of the Resolute, silence reigned. Patel whispered, "Did we?" The dreadnought shuddered but did not explode. Instead, it limped, crippled but alive. Jakor's furious face appeared on their comms. "This is not defeat," he snarled, blood staining his mandibles. "I will return, and when I do..." Varga cut the channel. Her voice was steady. "Then we'll be ready." Across the system, the Empire's fleet faltered. With their flagship crippled, morale shattered. Ships disengaged, retreating into slipspace. What had begun as overwhelming force. The once proud Dominion's wrath drifted like a wounded beast. Its hull still burned, scars of fire stretching across black plating. On its bridge, High Lord Jakor stood rigid, his command staff avoiding his gaze. Pride had fueled him, but now silence suffocated the air. "The humans crippled our flagship," Admiral Karath finally said. "The fleet retreats in disorder. Morale falters across every sector. High Lord, if we continue, we risk collapse." Jakor's voice rasped. "Collapse? We are the Empire. Collapse is for the weak." Karath held his tongue. Everyone saw the truth. The illusion of invincibility had cracked, and illusions, once broken, could not be mended. Across human space, celebrations flared like wildfire. Colonies lit beacons in the night skies. Children scrawled, "We don't kneel," on walls and starships. On Earth, city streets erupted with cheers as broadcasts replayed the footage of the dreadnought burning. In Geneva's Orbital Council Hall, Elena Varga addressed the gathered leaders. She stood without ceremony, uniform marked by battle, her tone calm and unadorned. "The Empire is not defeated," she said. "But it has been exposed. Their fleets bleed, their people whisper, their commanders hesitate. For centuries, they thrived on fear. Now, fear is theirs." Councillor Liang leaned forward. "You believe we can push them further?" "We must," Varga replied. "The longer we hold back, the more time they have to rebuild their illusion. This isn't just survival anymore. It's opportunity." Some councillors murmured dissent, but the tide had shifted. Even skeptics could not deny the truth. Humanity had faced the strongest fleet in the galaxy and endured. On the Resolute, the crew absorbed the moment with a mix of exhaustion and quiet pride. Lieutenant Patel said, "We keep hitting them like this, they'll crack." Commander Jean shook his head. "They're already cracking. The question is whether we finish the job or let them tear themselves apart." Varga studied the starfield through the viewport. Predators that taste their own blood often devour each other. "Our task is to keep the pressure steady. Push them to turn inward." She tapped the console. "Set course for the border sectors. We'll make them chase ghosts until their empire drowns in doubt." Meanwhile, in the Empire's core worlds, discontent brewed. Whispers spread among citizens and soldiers alike. The humans could not be crushed, the dreadnought had fallen, the High Lord raged but delivered no victories. In barracks and marketplaces, questions rose like sparks. Why throw lives into a war that promised only humiliation? Why follow a leader blinded by obsession? Jakor, feeling the weight of eyes upon him, summoned his war council once more. He slammed his claws against the table, forcing silence. "The humans are not gods," he hissed. "They are insects dressed as warriors. They fight from shadows because they cannot face us openly. Do not forget this." But his generals exchanged wary glances. They had heard Varga's broadcasts too. They had seen the dreadnought crippled. His words rang hollow. The final confrontation was not a battle of guns but of resolve. The Resolute intercepted encrypted transmissions, reports of Empire outposts refusing orders, governors delaying shipments, admirals arguing in secret. The cracks widened daily. "Jakor is losing control," Patel reported. "Then he'll act rashly," Varga said. "A wounded predator lashes out. He'll try one last strike." Jean frowned. "And if he does, then we make it his end." That strike came at Ebon Gate, a narrow corridor of slipspace routes connecting Empire and human sectors. Jakor hurled what remained of his fleet into the choke point, determined to crush humanity in one decisive blow. But humanity had already anticipated it. The Terran fleet waited, layered defenses woven through mined asteroids and hidden turrets. As the Empire entered, fire converged from every angle. The Resolute led the charge, weaving through the chaos with precision. Varga's commands were clipped, steady. Target the escorts. Cut their support. Leave the beasts to choke on their own mass. Explosions rippled across the void. Empire ships, once symbols of terror, scattered like prey. On the Dominion's wrath, Jakor howled orders, but his fleet disobeyed. Some ships retreated without command. Others turned on each other in desperation. Admiral Korath watched the unraveling with grim clarity. He had followed Jakor out of duty, but duty could not blind him now. He turned to his crew. The High Lord is finished. Withdraw. The order spread like fire through dry grass. One by one, ships slipped away, abandoning their leader. The battle ended not with a final blow but with desertion. The Dominion's wrath, crippled and isolated, floated alone in the wreckage. On the Resolute, Patel whispered, "He's alone." Varga nodded. "Let him be. The galaxy will do the rest." News of Ebon Gate spread faster than any plasma fire. The Empire had faltered again, its fleets in disarray, its High Lord stranded. The illusion shattered completely. Across alien worlds long cowed by fear, uprisings ignited. Species once silent rose, emboldened by humanity's defiance. The Empire, vast but brittle, began to fracture. In Geneva, the Council reconvened. Councillor Alvarez, once skeptical, addressed Varga with new respect. "You were right, Captain. Fear was their weapon. You've turned it against them." Varga answered simply, "Humanity doesn't kneel." That truth was enough. The chamber fell silent, not out of doubt, but recognition. On the Resolute's observation deck, Varga stood with Jean, watching the stars. The war was not truly over. Wars never ended cleanly, but the tide had turned irrevocably. Jean asked, "Do you think Jakor will ever stop?" Varga shook her head. "Predators like him don't stop. They fall. And when they do, others step forward. But we've shown the galaxy something that can't be undone." "What's that?" Jean pressed. "That humanity isn't prey," Varga said softly. "We're the storm that predators learn to fear." Somewhere in the void, Jakor raged aboard his crippled flagship, surrounded by silence. His empire crumbled, his fleet deserted, his pride reduced to ashes. But his name would not be remembered for conquest. It would be remembered for the day humanity proved that even the greatest predator could bleed. And among the stars, humanity carried forward, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as the species that refused to kneel.